making waves, 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 artist waves. We making waves, 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 artist waves.
All right. Thank you, K-Bomb. Hello, everyone. Jeff Gora, Artist Waves here. Happy Thursday, May 14th. A bit of a slow week for Artist Waves in terms of live interviews and some other new stuff, up against what was a very busy opposite of slow week last week, which I totally loved, but needed a little breath. Today, my guest is Jackie Popovec from the Vindys, which is a really great, cool, exciting band out of Ohio. But ironically, before I get to that, I happen to have the name Vinny in my head, pretty heavily in my head for the past day or two. This interview's been scheduled for a while, so this is kind of ironic and kind of a coincidence. But I'm saying that, I might be just talking to myself here for a minute, but I'm saying that because for me personally, during this session, I'm going to be thinking a lot about my cousins. So I'm going to take a minute to make this a bit of a tribute, I guess, to them, with them in mind. So I'm gonna go someplace else. I'm gonna go do my thing, and I'm going to keep that in the back of my mind while we're talking. And this is a kind of a crazy time, as everyone knows. But if there's one thing that sometimes the people you need to see the most are the ones that you can't. But in the distance, it's the music that's keeping us together. So, having said that, we're going to talk to Jackie from the Vindys, and I'm really excited about that. The Vindys is a really, really great band out of Ohio, as I said. Joseph Arthur actually introduced me to them, and we're going to talk. We are going to see what's up with them in their world, and I believe Jackie's here. So I am going to request Jackie joins us, and in the meantime, I will play their music. There we are.
Okay. All right. I thought for a second, I was like, what is going on here? Hi.
What's up, Jackie? How are you?
Hi. You know what? I came in on that last little bit of what you were talking about, something with your cousins, and you look really worried, and I want to know, wait, what's going on?
Oh, no.
Is everybody okay?
Everything's good. I didn't mean to start like that. You know what I do is I usually, I already scared you away. We're like 30 seconds deep and I scared you away. No, you know what? I always start like 5 minutes early. And
okay.
I just say what's up, give a little intro, talk for a minute. And I said, ironically enough, that the name of your group is obviously Vindys, and I happen to have the past few days my uncle's name, who was Vinny, in my head, and I was thinking about my cousins a little bit with
family and everything. Yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
So you jumped in at a weird transition from like, who is this deep psycho to we're gonna have a fun talk about music.
No, I mean, we're all in the same boat, man. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to stay away from my nieces and nephews and my sisters and my family right now. But I mean, we're all just trying to protect each other. So yeah, we're all in it together for sure.
Right on. Well, how are you? How is the group handling this crazy time? What's going on in the quarantine Vindys world?
So, the last show we did was in Chicago, when things were starting to look a little rocky. People started like not shaking hands. This is like March 4th or 5th. We had just come off, like the night before we like recorded our last song that's going to be on our new album. And then the day after hopped in the van, went to Chicago, and like we played this really intimate show, and people were already like Lysol wipes and hand sanitizer, don't touch anybody, don't shake hands. So that's a weird place to be as a band who like you go out on the road and that's what you do after a show. You meet with people and you sell your merch and you sell your albums and you talk to people, and it was a little weird. But like shortly after that, we just saw postponements and then cancellations. I mean, the industry right now, like they're saying we're like a phase 4, like the last people to open up as far as like concerts and events and everything. So I don't know what's going, I mean, we don't know what's going on. So it's going to be all up in the air until we figure it out.
Yeah, it's been that way kind of across the board. But at least you guys have done some pretty cool things in the meantime, and take advantage of the various outlets and engagement platforms that you do have. So kudos to anyone who's doing that.
So thankfully, we did record our latest album. We did most of it in January. So now like we had this one last song that we had to work on, and it's been so nice to have technology there, just so that we can get like on Zoom meetings and talk about editing, talk about mixing, talking about, you know, what we're going to do as far as a release goes. And like definitely grateful for that, because like if this happened like in the 80s and everybody had to be like in their, you know, in their houses without like phones and stuff, it'd be insane.
Yeah.
So I'm just grateful for that, at least.
Right on. Well, that worked out well. So there's new music in the pipeline. Cool.
New music for sure.
Nice.
This summer.
I gotta tell you, before I get a little deeper, you asked me how I got to know of your group, and this is kind of a funny story. I think. So we have a mutual friend or acquaintance in Joseph Arthur, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So I love his podcast, and I love the different eclectic mix of guests that he has on his podcast. So I don't know, maybe 2 months ago, 3 months ago, I'm going through his podcast, and I see the photo of him. I think it was like the Saturday Night Live, the guy's name is escaping me. Saturday Night Live musician, guitar player who was his guest, and I'm like, that is a cool sweatshirt that Joseph's wearing. He was wearing your Vindys gray, like the vintage, like really comfortable sweatshirt, which I never noticed stuff like that.
Rocky
so
style.
Like, yeah, totally Rocky Balboa style. And I'm like, that is an awesome sweatshirt. What is that? Like, so I just Googled like Vindys sweatshirt, not really knowing what I was looking for. And eventually your band and your site came up and your merch came up, and I was like, totally submersed in this world of your music, and I went down this rabbit hole of listening to your music, all because I was looking for your sweatshirt, which
Isn't
was
that
sold
amazing? Getting merch. That's so cool. I love that. Yeah, I caught that too, and I think we had like reposted that he wore the sweatshirt. And I know John and the guys on the band are on their pages watching. So if you know, I can't remember the guitarist that he did. But yeah, Joseph Arthur, we played, you know, we've been trying to get to a show of his. He's actually from Akron, which is just down the street from us. We're in Youngstown, Ohio. And he's been playing this like once a year, like Thanksgiving Eve type of show at Tangier in Akron. And we've been trying to go, but we're always playing, you know, when other, you know, people are playing. And then we got on this bill with him and Red, White, and Blue. And that was at like the end of the year, and he was amazing. And I mean, that we, you know, exchanged merch, and I've been wearing his stuff on my, you know, Whiskey Wednesdays that I do on our Facebook Live every Wednesday. And he wore the sweatshirt. So, I mean, he's a really cool cat. And how do you know him?
We just met years ago. I interviewed him out of the blue when he was doing his tour with Random, which he did with Jeff Ament and Richard Stuberveld or something like that. I interviewed him. This is probably about 4 or 5 years ago. And we just hit it off in the interview. Like, we just kept talking for like 2 hours, exchanged numbers, started talking and texting and emailing. And we've done a couple of different features over the past few years, and just really that simple of a story. He's
Yeah,
actually
I mean,
coming up.
he's definitely one of those people that you just want to talk to more and like more in depth and more personally. So like him doing the podcast and everything, that's like totally right up his alley for sure. But yeah, Joseph, I mean, he's got this like, you know, his setup is super cool, like super weird sounds that he's got going on. And you know, the one thing that I remember from our show that we did with him was that my merch girl was there, and he's the kind that just like shows up to a, you know, a theater gig full of 500 600 people, throws his merch, and he's like, yeah, if someone wants something, like they can just throw money in the, you know.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't have a person. He's like so laid back, and he was selling some of his paintings, and my merch girl was like, my merch girl, who is a super super shy girl, he asked her to like, hey, if somebody wants my painting for, you know, $500 600, just take the money for me, and that'll be fine. And she's like, I'm uncomfortable with that. And yeah, so
Yeah, that's
anyway,
his style. That's totally his style. He's just artistic as they come.
yes, very very. And I hear that he does like paintings like while he's on stage too.
He
Like,
does.
yeah.
Yeah, he does. And that came out of nowhere because he was interviewed and someone said to him, do you like asked him if he ever does that? Do you ever live paint on stage? And he was like, no, but I can. And the next week he did. So yeah, so he's a good dude, and I don't even think he knows that. Yeah, he introduced me to your band, and then I went down this rabbit hole of your music, and the first thing I ended up seeing was, I think your cover of the Cranberries, and Dolores is like one of my favorite singers ever. So I saw your cover of the Cranberries, your cover of Aerosmith, and then I got hooked on to Keep Going. So it was really cool. I still don't have a sweatshirt, by the way, but I'm gonna get one.
That will be coming your way. I have to email me the address. I have to send it to you, and I will definitely do that. But I was inspired actually by your wall, because I was like flipping through your Instagram, and you were talking about the wall behind you.
Yeah.
And I had just painted my walls, and I was like, I need to put like all the cool posters I have. So I have like PJ Harvey.
Nice.
This is like my sad girl wall, Alanis Morissette. So this is my like angry women wall.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
these are all we collaborate with a lot of artists in our features, and instead of just like using the standard press photos that come with, nothing against those, but we end up collaborating with a bunch of artists. So I've tried to display like a lot of their work of some of my favorites back here. So very cool. But I should just point out, I don't have a sweatshirt not because I didn't buy one, because it was sold out. So
no, because you knew that you'd be interviewing me, so you're like, oh, I'll get one.
Yeah.
I'm sure I just ask her for one.
It's all sales tactic, right? Right on. Well, let's talk about your music for a little bit, because I have a lot of questions, and I'm really interested to hear. I always love to hear like where the music comes from, what inspires you to write, the story behind the tune, so to speak. But if you don't mind taking a quick step back, because I know you guys collectively have a pretty rich individual history in your own paths in terms of music education and your own the way that you have learned music and taught yourself and come together. But I'm curious your path. Like, how did you start in music? Like, what's your first memory of music, and where did you begin in terms of picking up an instrument, songwriting, any of it?
So actually, when I was younger, I like picked up a guitar and started like playing, you know, cover tunes. And I asked my dad, who is a salesperson in the food industry, who knows all of the local bars and local restaurants. And I was like, Dad, can you just like ask them to like have this like 14-year-old girl sit in for a set and like, you know, for tips or whatever. So that was like my first like intro into like performing and playing for people. And then I started writing my own music, just kind of, you know, happened along the way. But like in college, I went to a class. Well, I went to the Dana School of Music, which is YSU with Youngstown, Ohio, or Youngstown State University. And it was a classical music school where they like taught like opera, and I was like totally that wasn't my thing. Like, I didn't know what I was there to do. I thought, you know, learning classical might help me in some way, which for the guys, that definitely, you know, worked for, you know, Ed and John, who, you know, teach music now. And they, you know, learning classical for instrumentation is great so that you can know the basics, so that you can break the rules, so you can, you know, improv like they do when we're on stage. That's like super helpful. They play literally anything, any genre, any style, super improv-y. And then for me, I was like, this is not my thing. You know, I was more of a stylistic singer. I ended up going to I took a semester there, then I dropped out, went down to Florida for Mike Curb College of Music Production, and learned like the background of like live, you know, production and editing and everything. So I did that for 2 years, came back and found these guys who were doing amazing stuff. So when we got together, I was like, this is like exactly what I need as far as like just like an outlet. And we started like putting some of our own songs out there, and you know, like the radio picked it up, and then it kind of just took off from there.
Well, that's cool. I didn't realize that you had that many dimensions in your background in terms of like even the editing and what you said you went to school in Florida for.
Yeah, so I mean, that's been helping me a lot as far as like keep going out there. We did all of the producing and mixing on that album ourselves.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so and then now we're able to, we have a little bit of money saved up that we were able to, you know, get some real pros on it as well. But, you know, definitely the vocabulary that I learned there helps in that aspect as well.
And in terms of like, so I know you play guitar and you play piano, right? Were those part of your musical background before like you went to school, or did you pick up learning to play instruments along the way?
No, yeah, I tried going to class I tried to do the, lessons and everything, but that never worked out for me. I always kind of like to get on YouTube or, find the chords online and try to just learn it myself. And I honestly feel like that helped me way more understand, you know, even vocally, like trying to copy or emulate your influence the people who influence you, and try to copying them. That's just like the way to go as far as, you know, how I like to learn.
Okay, cool. And when you have a group of musicians who all are very well versed in their instruments and in songwriting, like you guys are, how does a Vindys song get written? I'm sure there's no standard way, but does anyone do you, or does anyone in the group bring to the table a full song and be like, hey guys, here's this song that I wrote. Do you want to learn parts, or do you write together as a group?
So I have for a long time been very totally isolate myself when I'm in the writing process, and I really like to I used to like to bring the band a complete bone structure of the song, chords and lyrics and melody. And then, you know, as the years went by and I got more comfortable with the boys, I started saying, you know, here's what I got. I mean, at the, you know, the core structure of a song, I'll bring it to them. It says I have 20% battery. That's why.
Oh, you're good. You're back.
It's okay. We got 20% left. Where was I? No, I said that I take a song to them, and then they arrange it as far as what their parts would be, and I kind of just try to you know, give them a mood or even a couple of different examples of what I'm going for as far as a sound. But really they are the ones that are taking their parts and doing what they want with the arrangement. So I'll okay. Give them, you know, chords, lyrics, melody, structure, and then they take it on, and then they also, you know, throw in their kind of spin on things too. And I definitely, I'm open to you know, taking any advice.
Okay, cool. That's I like that. It's a collective effort. And speaking of which, one thing that I noticed, like when I was learning about the group and I was listening to kind of your back catalog and obviously Keep Going, was that so I like to, I guess, given the position I'm in, I like to kind of learn about the group, where they come from, what's the story behind the music. And one thing that I noticed right away was that I'm not totally familiar with your local scene. So I'm in Boston. I'm in the Boston area.
Yeah.
And I have a decent feel for the Ohio music scene, but not being there and obviously being a part of it, I can only know so much. But I felt like as I learned about Vindys, it seemed like you guys really have the local Youngstown and Cleveland community, greater community, like behind you. Like it seemed like a really community driven band where you're very supportive of each other and very proud of each other, and the city's got your back, like it seemed like I was very struck by like how well how like strong of a community there is locally behind your group. Is that a fair assessment? Like, is that what you guys noticed too?
So, I mean, Youngstown, Ohio, being that it was once a really amazing steel town, like the economy used to be booming here. And just like Pittsburgh and Cleveland, it has kind of, crumbled over the years. And for like as far as like the music scene in Youngstown, there was like a thriving rock scene in the area in the 90s and early 2000s. And somewhere between when I was growing up, somewhere like when I got into high school and even into college, there was just like venues not anywhere to be found after a while. And it was really sad to me that I wasn't able to go, to many places. I had like my one or two spots, but like not a lot of people in Youngstown were doing, things other than, they were doing, cover tribute kind of band stuff. And that was like not like the best, it's not the best scene to come out of. So we kind of, as we were doing our own music, coming out with an album in 2014, it was like almost a stamp of saying like, okay, we're the Vindys. Our very name comes from the Youngstown newspaper called The Vindicator. So that's where the name comes from. We kind of like wanted to brand ourselves as like coming out of Youngstown, like and in that, like we have kind of developed this like musicians network, almost like people were coming out and saying like, we want to play and we want to play original music again. And instead, and people will come if you build it, so get the original music out there. That was our thing. And then we started seeing more venues, popping up, more venues that we used to see in the 90s or early 2000s. And then, as far as like the Northeast Ohio music goes, like there's a rich, like gritty kind of music that has come out of this area. I mean, it's our history, and it's something that we wanted to go back to as far as like giving a nod to, the original music, because I think somewhere it got lost as far as, Youngstown for a little while, but it is definitely coming back.
Oh wow, that's really cool to hear, because I was thinking while you were describing it, your music, and obviously the record, your latest full record, Keep Going, kind of totally backs that up. I mean, the name of the record was Keep Going, and then you have a song on there which is one of my favorites of yours called Chasing, which I feel like that song is totally backing up the whole theme behind a record called Keep Going. Well, I guess my question would be around that song Chasing. Like, what does that song mean to you guys in terms of what you're talking about? Is it relative? Because it's a really strong, many of your songs are like a really strong chorus, but that one in particular, it kind of sails away on the journey that you're talking about right there.
So, a lot of times when you talk to bands, they'll say, the influences that they grew up around, the venues that they used to see. We kind of came out of like a no nothing kind of thing. We had all this kind of genres that we were nodding towards, because we kind of started as this cover band that said, okay, no more, let's do our own thing. So I have the jazz in me, I have the rock in me. But mostly, I mean, that song in particular, Chasin', was definitely a nod to like, let's just rock it out, here. So that song in particular is very special to me for that reason, because it is the heavier rock song on the album.
Yeah, that song is awesome. I love that song.
Thank you.
The other one that really took me off that record. Well, it's such an eclectic, diverse, really melodic record. But what we do a lot on Artist Waves is we kind of focus on lyrics a lot. Like what are the artists trying to say? What is happening? How are you kind of like emotionally spilling your guts? And one song in particular, Don't Ask, where you say, so I know the record's like 2-3 years old, right? But one of my favorite lyrics that I've heard so far this year, since the record was relatively new to me this year, is, let's see if I get this right without missing a word. Don't ask me where it ends when I don't know where it starts. Or something like that, right? Don't ask me where it ends when I don't know. Yeah, is that right?
Yeah.
Did I get that?
Yeah,
I got it right.
I'm pretty sure. I think that's how it goes. Yeah. I almost have to sing it.
That's a strong line.
Thank you.
A strong line and a strong song. That like totally popped out at me. So, so not so much a question, more so feedback on like what are the things that Artist Waves kind of like zones in on and finds like something small that ends up being something like really big. I call it a ripple effect, which kind of speaks to I guess my previous questions about community and you guys coming together and actually what you're doing with your music. So,
well, first of all, I really appreciate you really like diving into this, because it's something that I like, even the questions you're asking, it's like something that I'm not used to, thinking about or answering about. But as far as like the writing process, as far as lyrically for me, it's almost like, shots, like snapshots in time of your life that you like, if you're in the moment of something or something's happening to you, it's really hard to talk about. But once you get to the other side, it's way easier to figure out what happened and how you were feeling at that time and write about it.
Yeah.
So for me, even during this quarantine time, I want to be like, I'm definitely journaling a lot more, but as far as like writing like lyrics and poetry and that kind of thing, I'm still kind of like in it. Like I haven't really like figured out where this is going, how I'm feeling. Some days I'm like super down, and sometimes I'm like, the weather's great outside, just enjoy yourself, like you're not working, like don't worry about it. It's like when you're out of the moment and you can look back, that's when like the real writing begins, because you can assess and create something from that.
Totally agree with that. And you totally back up a lot of what we've been doing, and even probably why I started this on a note relative to that point. So I want to ask you one other thing specifically, and usually around now, as we start to wind down a little bit, if anyone wants to submit a question for Jackie, if it's cool with you, you can do that. And if we could pick a few out or one or two out that are relevant, if you want to, you could just fire it into me. And while I'll ask you this, I will keep an eye on that. So anything labeled whiskey, like branded whiskey with an event attached to it, or a whiskey sponsored, always gets my attention. Can you tell us a little bit about like what you guys, or you specifically, have been doing with the Whiskey Wednesdays? Because it's pretty cool. It's really fun.
Whiskey Wednesday is a really cool thing, especially during this time right now, because about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we decided to do this live Whiskey Wednesday where, and this was on Facebook when they just started doing the live update on there. And you can get on there and talk and play, and people can chime in and comment and ask questions. And that's kind of one way that we kind of like talk shop to our fans too. So we can get personal with people, you know, who are, you know, commenting on this or where can I get this? And so it's been a really great thing. Honestly, the Whiskey Wednesday was just, you know, as far as like whiskey goes, like we all like whiskey and we all like to hang out. So that was kind of our thing. And really, when we started it, it was like kind of a way to not only promote the band, but also to promote local events or local businesses, which is definitely our branding of, you know, we want to keep the community, you know, going and make sure that we have, you know, promoted some really cool things. Other bands we've had several guests and several bars and several restaurants and local retail and this and that. So it's kind of our way of just like giving back to the community as well. And so it's been, we're going on our third season. We just started. It's like from April until October. I like to call it seasons just for fun.
That's really cool. So
yeah.
You're bringing local people in other groups. So we're surfing this wave of local community. So that's cool. I really have enjoyed it from the parts that I've seen, and I'll have to bring some whiskey of my own to the next party. So
well, we should definitely do that. I actually I'm not gonna lie, I took a little shot of whiskey before this happened.
You know, I do that sometimes too, and I had planned on it.
Nervous.
The ice cream man was driving by my window as I was sorting, so I got distracted. That's a true story too. I was like, I can't have ice cream man music while I'm about to start this interview. So I will do one right after.
I like it. I like it.
Right
no, yeah, it's just, you know, like I hate talking about me. I honestly do. But like if we're talking about like music and writing and stuff, I love that. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. I come from a place like that too. I play a little bit and I'm a writer, so that's kind of where my mindset goes in terms of formulating questions. Speaking of which, we kind of have a cool question, a fun one from Andrew Christian 10, aka Spikes. He wants to know, past or present, what artist would you have a whiskey with?
Oh my God. Past or present? I'm gonna say Etta James.
Oh, nice.
I'm gonna say Etta James just because I think she's just enough crazy, you know? Like I can't say like Amy Winehouse because she wouldn't be like talking during a conversation probably. I don't know. I think Etta James is probably like my go-to. And I, you know, kind of just grew up listening to her and like listening to her, you know, soft and angry voice. And I want to know where that comes from. You know, I've always wanted to, you know, maybe have a whiskey with her.
I like that. That's a good answer. Yeah, I think she'd be like a good crazy, like a controlled crazy that you want to talk to, not
just passionate.
Yeah,
I should say.
Yeah. Right on. That's a good one. I like that. So last one, which you kind of touched upon, someone sent in asking what else. You talked about a new record that you guys recorded in January.
Yeah.
What else is on tap in the world of Vindys? What can people look out for? And what do you have coming up?
So nothing, no shows, but tomorrow we are getting brave enough to get outside of our houses, all of the band. We're going to get together in this massive warehouse with a local production company, 42 Productions. They're doing staging and lighting for us. Company Ultimate Ears Pro, who does our in-ear monitors, they are doing a fundraiser for Music Cares. And we're going to be doing a full set. We're going to be, you know, doing the fundraiser live. So it'll be the first time that the band gets together. They have made sure that everyone's going to get their temperatures taken. Everyone's going to have masks on right up until we play, and everyone's going to be spaced out even more than 10 feet apart. So little nervous, but really excited to get together with the guys again, because it's been so long. So it's been months. So
That's really cool.
yeah, so that'll be tomorrow, actually, 3:00.
Okay.
So you can look that up on their Facebook, which is the Ultimate Ears Pro Facebook page, at 3:00 Eastern.
Okay. And you can actually watch the live stream of the performance on their page?
Yes. Yeah, and we'll be sharing it on our site as well. Wait, where are you? Where are you from?
I'm in the Boston area.
Boston. Okay, cool. Awesome.
Have you guys ever played here?
I have not played in Boston. We've done Philadelphia, New York. We were supposed to be in DC. Never Boston though. What's the scene out there, if I can ask you? Like, what kind of music scene is there?
Yeah, it's a really good scene. Like there's different dimensions of it. It's very tight knit, as I'm sure most of cities like ours is. There's a bunch of like smaller rock clubs. There's a few that have not lasted the past few years, but not to be a downer. But there's a good scene. Like there are pockets of punk rock. There's pockets of hip hop. There's places where it comes together. There's some really good small clubs that are some of my favorites. And then there's, the normal like House of Blues and Avalons and stuff like that. But where I'm from, right outside of Boston, there's a really good, I want to call it like a surf music scene, almost like reggae vibe meets like acoustic beach campfire music. There's this local, I don't know if you ever heard of the Levitate Festival, but it's a local surf shop that just exploded in terms of music, and we get all sorts of national acts that come through on the South Shore that kind of meet that vibe. So it's a really cool kind of tight knit local beach music community.
And where is that? It's outside of Boston?
Right outside. So the South Shore, and there's an area called Marshfield where the Levitate Festival is. It's right up against the beach. There's Hull. There's a couple of different places. So it's cool. There's a little bit of everything. There's people.
I mean, that's kind of how like everything is now. I mean, every city has its like pockets now. It's so global, everybody is, finding music everywhere nowadays. So it's like, you'll get pockets of, even in Pittsburgh or Cleveland, you'll have like a really dynamic scene as far as like hip hop and rock and blues. So yeah, I mean, I kind of like it. It kind of is nice to like go to the one club for, you're going to get some ska or punk or whatever. Yeah. So you can
it's cool too. I mean, there's certainly places here that allow for like all of those to play on the same night, and then there's places where it's just like emo night, only emo night. So we got one more question, and then I'll let you go. That just came in that I thought was interesting. It's from Jake Raiders 10 wants to know, what's your favorite song that you ever wrote?
Oh God. I don't know. I like different songs for different reasons, but I'm gonna probably say Bang it was from our EP that we redid on the Keep Going. Bang is my favorite just because I wrote it in 15 minutes in my car, and I like hurried and wrote it down, and I had it all in my head, and it just came to me. And I guess that's one reason why. I mean, that's like my most memorable song that I've ever written, because I was like, how did this happen? How did it happen in 15 minutes?
Those are how the best songs happen. That old cliche. It's true. It's always true.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, listen, Jackie, this was awesome. I really enjoyed speaking with you. Vindys World, you guys keep doing what you're doing. You guys are doing some awesome things and writing killer songs.
Thank you so much for having me on today.
Of course, it was a blast. I really appreciate you taking the time, and hopefully when things come back to normal, we'll see you guys on a proper East Coast tour sometime.
I'll get up to Boston for sure.
Right on. Well, take care. Be healthy out there at 3:00 tomorrow.
Bye.
Take care. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for checking out the interview with Jackie and the Vindys. That was a really fun conversation. Went quickly. And I really appreciate everyone who tuned in and sent in some comments and some thumbs up and some messages and some questions. And who listened to my little rant in the beginning. Chris Cornell, what's up? 3 years this weekend, and we'll be tributing him the right way. Lily Rainbow, I saw my boy Spikes on the list. I saw the Goudas. Thank you all so much, and stay healthy, stay safe out there. And I always make sure optimism is front and center with Artist Waves. Like words of encouragement, words of inspiration, music of encouragement, music of inspiration. But it doesn't mean that we too, or I too, don't acknowledge the shit, the bad stuff. But it's escapes like the past 30 minutes talking about music, listening to music, and realizing that that's always there. That'll dig you out. So let's put it that way. Anyway, not to go back to being deep, but this was an important few minutes, and I really appreciate everyone tuning in. Jeff Gora, Artist Wave, signing off. See you next week. Emerson Hart from Tonic is coming in, and a couple of other cool people. So thank you.